All right, let's dive right in. Today in this explainer, we are stepping back in time to November of 1917. Now, when we typically think about 1917, we picture a world turned completely upside down by global conflict, right? But today, we're going to look at something incredibly grounding. We are unpacking the story of Lyle Carringer's 26th birthday party in San Diego. This isn't a story about the battlefield. It's this fascinating, intimate look at finding warmth, certainty, and deep human connection, literally right in the middle of a war.
And it's exactly this wild contrast we're exploring today, a world at war out there versus a quiet, safe parlor on 30th Street. The macro reality of 1917 was all chaos and uncertainty, but the micro reality, that intimate, very ordinary miracle of a family gathering, that provided a massive anchor. I mean, it really begs the question, how do people build a semblance of normal life when the world around them is anything but normal?
Well, let's look at part 1, Wartime San Diego, 1917. The quiet season.
At this point, their daily rhythms were pretty much worlds apart. You've got Lyle, whose life as a Marine meant morning inventories at the PX and afternoon shifts behind the counter, just a steady, non-stop stream of Marines buying tobacco and shaving soap. And Emily, meanwhile, worked the gloves and accessories counter over at Marston's department store, spending her evenings writing letters at her kitchen table. But the real magic happened on their rotating Thursdays. That was when Lyle's Liberty Pass was granted. They'd walk the bay, grab a bite on Broadway, and ride the trolley down to 30th Street. They literally built an entire totally normal life around these Thursday passes.
Moving into our next section, planning the perfect party and Emily's brilliant orchestration. So picture this. It's a Thursday in early October, and Emily sits down with her notepad. She tells Lyle, very directly mind you, that he's turning 26 and she is throwing him a party at his parents' house. Period. Her process was incredibly efficient, broken down into 3 main steps. Step 1, secure Austen and Della Carringer's 30th Street house, which frankly had the perfect layout for this kind of thing. Step 2, curate the guest list, carefully balancing family, neighbors, and old high school friends. And step 3, coordinate the secret cake with her mother, Georgia. Emily was just naturally so organized, and she executed this whole shebang with this quiet, loving precision.
22. That is the exact number of guests Emily assembled on her notepad. Now, Lyle was actually a little worried. He wondered if maybe it was too many people for his mother's house. But Emily, she simply noted that the house had a dining room, a parlor, a kitchen, and a front porch. Her conclusion was absolutely final. 22 people is exactly right.
Which brings us to part 3, A House Full of Friends, November 2nd, 1970.
Right before they even get to the house that evening, Emily's mother, Georgia, hands Lyle a small brown paper package right on her front step. Inside is a small, leather-bound breast pocket notebook and a good pen. This, for keeping track of things. It seems like a minor detail, but hold on to that because it becomes incredibly important later on. Anyway, Emily, looking stunning in this deep green wool dress, takes his arm, and they board the trolley for 30th Street. Even from half a block away, Lyle can hear that unmistakable, layered sound of a house completely packed with people. When he walks in, about 15 people yell surprise, with, let's say, varying degrees of coordination. You've got grandmother Abby Smith firmly planted in the best chair. Uncle Davy and Aunt Amy are there. 15-year-old cousin Maybelle is hanging out, having quickly bonded with Emily's hilarious friend Gladys over motion pictures. Then we've got Charlie Morrison from Marston's with his booming laugh, plus old friends from the high school class of 1913. It was a room just bursting with life.
And the conversation at this party is just fantastic. Honestly, Uncle Davy is telling this whole story about a taxi fare he drove to National City. Apparently, the customer argued with him about the route the entire way, but then tipped him super generously at the end. So Davy concludes, some people can only express gratitude with money, and without missing a single beat, Aunt Amy appears out of nowhere with a plate of ginger cookies and adds, and some people express it with cake, which is the better option. I mean, how great is that? It just perfectly captures the warmth and the banter of the room.
And then there's grandmother Abby. I love this part. Great Aunt Libby had actually brought down a family photograph from the summer of 1902, which showed a very unenthusiastic 10-year-old Lyle. While everyone's debating just how much Lyle had changed over the years, Abby delivers this absolute gem. Before the Marines, he was a strong wind, but now you're a strong wind that can climb a rope, which is an improvement. It's so sharp, it's funny, and it perfectly highlights how Lyle's family viewed his growth.
Section 4, Lemon Cake and Memories. The centerpiece.
26, as the room naturally kind of quiets down, Georgia makes this grand theatrical entrance from the kitchen, carrying 26 candles, burning bright above 3 perfect layers of white cake. Charlie Morrison, of course, loudly leads the room in singing Happy Birthday, anchored by Abby's deep contralto voice. And Lyle? He just stands there in the center of his parents' parlor, completely surrounded by his entire world, looks over at Emily, and blows out all 26 candles.
Now you might be wondering, how on earth did Georgia know to make a lemon cake with lemon frosting? Actually, it's such a sweet detail. The clue wasn't something Lyle told her directly at all. Back in August, Lyle had written a letter to Emily where he just briefly mentioned that the lemon phosphate at the PX was literally the only thing worth having at the soda counter. Georgia had simply read the letters Emily left out on the kitchen table, and the result was this perfect, custom-made cake. It's just a stunning example of how quietly and how deeply these families were paying attention to each other.
A bit later on in the evening, Charlie Morrison pulls Lyle aside and asks him a pretty serious question. How are things really? And what happens after the war? Lyle simply replies, "After is planned." When he says this, he confidently looks straight across the room right at Emily. There is absolutely zero hesitation in him. The sheer uncertainty of the war raging outside doesn't even touch the certainty he has about his future with her.
Which leads us into our final section, the meaning of a moment. November 4th, 1917.
Fast forward 2 days later. Back at the Marine Barracks at Balboa Park, Lyle sits down to write Emily a letter. And in it, he tries to pin down the absolute best part of the party. It wasn't the delicious lemon cake, it wasn't Charlie's loud singing, or even that funny 1902 photograph. It was, as he wrote, the fact of it.
To use his exact words, the best moment was walking into the room, full of people I love, in my parents' house, in November, in the middle of a war. This just brilliantly sums up Lyle's profound realization. The magic of that night wasn't the gifts, it wasn't the food, it was the sheer existence of the gathering itself. Emily had basically created this incredible sanctuary of love and normalcy right in the middle of a world at war.
So what is the lasting impact of this single night? Well, Lyle carried these incredible sensory anchors back to the barracks with him. He physically carried that small leather notebook Georgia gave him right in his breast pocket. He carried the lingering memory of the taste of that lemon frosting. And above all else, he carried the absolute certainty of the life he was going to live with Emily. Standing out there in the dark after the party, being 26 didn't just feel like a number anymore, it felt exactly right.
And really, that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. How do ordinary moments become our most profound memories? Especially during times of deep uncertainty, Lyle and Emily's story shows us that when the world is chaotic, it's those quiet parlors, the shared laughter, and the carefully planned lemon cakes that truly anchor us. So, what are the ordinary moments anchoring you right now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep looking for those moments, and I'll see you next time.